Hi, and welcome to an introduction to event properties from Split. Event properties give you a lot more flexibility in creating metrics from events and impressions that go into your Split system. In Split, you can look at an experiment as measurement tied to a feature flag. So you split up your user population 50-50, and then you look at the difference between the on population and the off population in the case of perhaps a new feature. We do that by looking at our metrics. The metrics are that object in the Split environment that represent how you look at a given event stream, such as clicks or revenue in the card or whether or not they signed up or support calls or whatever event is important to you when you're comparing impressions from different treatments. And you determine whether or not you have a winning event. When you create a metric, it's always been very simple by putting in through the form whether or not you wanted to see the metric increase or decrease. So you might want to have an increase in revenue, but perhaps a decrease in errors or page load time. The traffic type you're going to use, how you're going to measure it, count of events. In this case, we're counting the number of tasks created. And then in the advanced section, you could do something like say, I only want to look at it for customers who also access the help center. And because I sometimes get bots, let me cap this at 5 because I wouldn't expect a normal user to have any more than 5 tasks created. With event properties, we've always had the ability to bring in a value, but the value is only a single value. Now we can bring in a number of properties, which could include values, in this case like price, nights, number of rooms, and additional properties that you might use for filtering. The new fields in event, when you create a metric, is a value field, which allows you to choose which of the properties you're going to use for your value, or you could use the default, which in the previous screen was just the one that said value is 375, and then the properties that you would use, or you want to use to filter. Let's take a look at how this looks in Split. First of all, you can go into your admin settings, look at the event types, we'll look at the booking property. In this case, we're looking at bookings at a hotel, and we can view to see the properties that are available to us that we've asked to be sent along with this event in sending the metric, or excuse me, in sending the event. If I go over here and look at my metrics, let's create a new metric from that. And let's say we want to see the average number of nights for premium users. We can, of course, always put in tags and a description. We want the average number of nights to increase, and we're going to be putting out a new feature in order to try and make that happen. And we're going to look at the average. And when we say average, it knows that that's a value that we're going to bring in, average or a sum. So let's pick the event that we're going to use, which is the booking event. The value that we want, we're going to look at the number of nights. And then we can leave it like that and say, okay, that's what we want to look at. Or we can add properties that filter that as well. So in this case, because we're saying we're going to do it for premium accounts, we can use one of our matchers to say, all right, in this case, it's going to be in the list of platinum and gold users. So we can, of course, also add filter criteria and a cap if we want to do that as well. So let's create that metric. So now we have this new metric that's going to see the average nights for premium users. We could also create another metric, which is just the average nights for all users. In fact, let's look at an example of that. In this case, we've got bookings per user, and that's bookings across all users, not count of events per user, and then bookings just for the platinum users. Let's go over and look at one of our splits, and we'll choose this split, which we show a little bit more room information automatically, and we want to see if that's going to have an impact. So we just have a 50-50 split on this, and we're going to look at our metrics impact. And we can see in the metrics that the bookings per user are very, very positive, and the bookings per platinum user is even more positive. And of course, as always, we can drill into these to see additional information for either the bookings across the summary or the bookings at a granular level for the premium users. And you can obviously see there's numbers of ways that you can combine different values and different properties to come up with metrics to really get a 360-degree view of whether or not the feature that you're rolling out or the treatments that you have a positive or negative impact. So when using properties as values, you simply, as you saw, select which property you want to use as the value field. In that case, we chose the number of nights. Value fields must have a float associated with it. If you happen to select a property that returns a null value, it will be converted into 0 when it's calculated. And if you choose a property that's not even a numeric, the metric will be created, but will treat all the values as 0. When you use it as filters, as you saw, we were able to do it for all accounts, platinum and gold accounts. And here over on the right-hand side are the various matchers that you can use as you're using it. It could be matched on strings, numbers, or booleans. And if you do happen to use a metric card, it will indicate if another data type is passed by telling you no events associated with this metric have been received for any user for the treatment. So that's event properties. As always, you can get more information and documentation at help.split.io. And of course, always feel free to reach out directly to Split if you have any questions about this new feature.